What's up, guys, and welcome back to another Real Madrid news video. It feels like it's been ages since I last did one. Of course, we have got the World Cup going on at the minute. Um, Everything that in terms of content on the channel is about the World Cup, and I think Real Madrid have just sort of taken a couple of steps back and just are waiting until the World Cup ends, you know, see if any players are going to return, and see if any of the summer targets are going to get knocked out and be available for discussions with the club and the players itself. You know, with the World Cup, and I said this months ago, right? When you have got the World Cup going, it's impossible to do much. Like we had the we had the Elliot Anderson here we go to Man City, right? Yes, it's a here we go, but Man City are not going to announce it until a couple of weeks time. Real Madrid are yet to announce Denzel Dumfries, right? Real Madrid did announce Cucurella, but that was sort of like get it out of the way, and that was getting it out of the way before Spain had kicked off their World Cup, campaign, right? With with other players that are already going and they're playing and they're involved, you just can't really get much going. Like you can agree, you know, verbally with the club, and the player might be happy with the move, and the player might be happy with personal terms. But the truth is, to get the official confirmation from both clubs during the World Cup is, not really that common. It doesn't. It's not like saying it doesn't happen or it's never happened before. It has, but usually I think clubs just not sit back and do nothing, but you know, clubs will be working behind the scenes as always. But I don't think that publishing the announcement of signings is the thing that clubs will be doing. They'll be looking at at certain players at the World Cup. They'll be scouting players, maybe even players that you've never seen or heard of at the World Cup, um, and they'll be looking at what sort of package, what sort of deal they can get for certain players, and then you before that you have to agree with the player, you have to agree with the selling club. There's so much process behind a transfer that it doesn't just happen overnight, basically. So, look, that's it. Of course, like I said, things are still going on between clubs, and we got that earlier on today. So, let's talk about it. Breaking news is exclusive. Como agreed deal with Real Madrid to buy Nico on permanent move. Here we go. Agreement reached as Como will rebuy Nico from Real Madrid. Nico wanted to stay at Como. Real Madrid will keep control on Nico and maintain buyback clause. So here we go. Now, a few months ago, I was actually expecting him to return and be part of the squad, but obviously circumstances change, right? Real Madrid are unstable now. Back in October, November, if Real Madrid had continued winning, Xabi Alonso was doing well. If he had won the league and Real Madrid are back towards the up in trajectory, right? Nico will probably return and be part of the squad and just, add into the quality. But now it's not the time to bring him back. Number one, the amount of game time for him is not going to be guaranteed, right? You're not going to play him every game. He's not going to be a starter. He will get involved if he's back or if he was to come back, but he didn't, obviously. But you're not going to get him to play 40, 50 games, right? And for his growth, for his value, for his worth, like it's not really the smart thing to do from a business perspective, but even on the pitch, like development wise, it's not the smartest thing to do. And for me, because of that, as Senegal has scored again, because of that, I believe that flip the profit now, right? It's 51 million that Real Madrid have made, right? Real Madrid brought him back for 9 million and sold him back to Como for 60 million, which we'll get onto in just a second. 51 million, let's run it down. 50 million euros profit can go a long way. Real Madrid are not broke, but every little helps. And for a player who is quality, he's a great player, but is it the time now to bring him back to the squad? Do we want to build a foundation and then bring him back? And I think that is the key. What we have now stays. Nico Pass, if Nico Pass was already part of the squad, he would stay. But the truth is he wasn't and he isn't, which is why him going out and on another year loan is good for him and the club because we can assess this in a year's time. And we'll get onto that later on as well. But like I said, sorry, not on loan, but him leaving now with the option to bring him back, will be um, assessed next year. Like I said, I'll get into that in just a second. But like I said, he was not part of the squad already. He's already in an environment that is suited to him. Como want him. He wants Como, like you can see here. And Jose Mourinho, I think, has bigger problems to deal with. Honestly, and I think a centre mid is way more important. I think another centre back could be an important position, and potentially a striker or a right winger could be, you know, areas to look at. And I don't think Nico Pass is a right winger. So that's it. Is it a good deal? Yes. Is it what I selfishly want? No. Like, I want him to stay and I want him to return and be part of the squad and play, right? But sometimes we have to take off our, red tinted glasses and just accept that it is what it is. Players come, players go, right? Nico Pass is an exceptional talent. He's an exceptional player. And I hope that in a year's time, we will bring him back. Which leads me on to the next point here. So, Real Madrid will keep a 80 million euros buyback clause for Nico Pass. This is reported by literally everyone, so that is the case. And apparently, that buyback clause is for only 2027, according to Sky Sport. So, basically, next year, Real Madrid can bring him back for 80 million euros. And this is the thing. You buy him back for 9 million euros. You flip him for 50 million euros and you sell him. That 50 million euros can be used to buy the players or whatever. And if you do well this season in the La Liga or in the Champions League, you'll obviously make revenue and etc., right? But let's not dive into that. That 50 million euros, we just need to top up 30 million euros next year if he has another crazy season. So, for example, if he, leads Como to, I don't know, the round of 16 in the Champions League and Como finish second in Serie A and he has got, 25 or 30 goals and assists or something crazy, right? And he is one of the best players in Serie A and he's one of the best players in Europe and in the world, and he develops even better than what he did last season. That 30 million euros is a steal. 30 million euros is nothing for Nico Pass if he's already at a level where he's world class. Right now, I don't think he's world class, but next season, if he does have an outstanding, exceptional season again, but even better, Real Madrid will buy him back for sure. 30 million euros essentially to top up to bring him back will be done. So that's not a concern for me at all. Like I said, right now, is Nico Pass needed in this squad? No. We have Goulet and with Bellingham. Is his development good if he comes back? No. He's got a club that wants him, a club that he wants, a club that he's been doing well at, a club that has developed him into a really great player. And right now, on top of all of that, Real Madrid are going to make a 50 million euro profit right now. And if Real Madrid decide, okay, we don't want him back next year, and we are not going to pay that release cost, Real Madrid will still make that 50 million euro profit no matter what. The only problem, like I said, is selfishly, I want him back at Real Madrid as a player. But like I said, we need to put away personal wants and feelings, and just look at it from an overall perspective. So, look, I'm completely acceptant to the fact that Nico Pass will go back to Como, and Real Madrid will let him go. But I like the strategy of inserting another buyback clause, because the buyback clause is in there for a reason. Not only is it, to be able to bring him back for cheaper, but it shows faith. It shows a desire to bring him back next year. If he has a great year, we will bring him back. Because again, if Real Madrid want to, right, Real Madrid can bring him back next year for 80 and sell him on for 100. Right? So that's financially, but even as a player, if he has a standout season, bring him back for 80, back in the squad, he can compete. And by then, we might have a more stable season, a more stable team, stable environment. Bring him back, makes sense. But with how unstable the last 2 years have been, for him, I just don't think it's fair to bring him back into this mess. And I believe that it will be better, it will get better, but we don't know that. Like, we don't know that is the definite truth. Like, the first year could be a bit of a bump, a bit of a, turbulent season. And is Nico Pass needed for that? Because, for example, if the team is struggling, and we're struggling in a midfield in terms of central mid or center defensive mid or defense, is Nico Pass going to offer much use? Not necessarily. So, like I said, look, I'll put an end to this by saying I'm completely acceptant of him going back to Como, because we do have the buyback clause. So, let's see what happens in a year's time. Everything can change, a lot can change, but I am just, I suppose, looking a bit forward to next season and next year. But next, lastly, Real Madrid sell Nico Pass to Como for 60 million. They retain an option to buy him back next summer for 80 million euros. So, yeah, look, like I said, it's a good deal. And if he does have an incredible season and leads Como to incredible things, who knows? Senegal has got again. Wow, 2 goals in this recording. France have slowed down a little bit, but of course they brought their stars off. But as you might have seen with my stupid mouse giving away the spoiler, Dani Ceballos is next. He will be leaving. Breaking: Dani Ceballos leaves Real Madrid as free agent. Confirmed. Spanish midfielder's contract has been terminated as he leaves on mutual agreement. Now, we also have a statement from Dani Ceballos himself. So, he says, after 9 years, the time has come to close one of the most important chapters of my life. It hasn't been an easy decision, nor has it been an easy year. And perhaps that's precisely why I felt the time had come to bring this chapter to a close and take on a new challenge with the same enthusiasm I had when I first arrived. I want to thank Real Madrid for giving me the opportunity to wear the greatest crest in the world and to learn from the best over so many years. I've been proud to defend this jersey, to grow as a soccer player and as a person, and to be part of a history full of successes they will always remember. Thank you to the president, the coaches, all my teammates, the club, staff, and every person who from day one made me feel like part of this great family. And above all, thank you to the Real Madrid fans. Thank you for your unconditional support, for your high standards, for celebrating the happiest moments with me, and for standing by me during the toughest times as well. Your affection has meant far more than words can express, and it will stay with me forever. I leave with the peace of mind that I gave my all for this crest, that I defended these colors with the pride and with all my heart, and with memories that will stay with me for the rest of my life. Real Madrid will always be a part of me, and I will always be grateful. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Hala Madrid. That actually made me a bit sad. Yeah, he actually did, to be honest. I think first of all, I think personally, right, like me included, I have been a bit of a critic on Dani Ceballos as a player. Like, I think when he first arrived back in what 2018, 2019 years ago now, when he first arrived, right, it felt like a really weird deal because we saw Marcus Llorente leave, and you know, Real Madrid were just signing like random La Liga players like Odriozola, if you remember him, um, Mariano Diaz, another guy like, and I think Dani Ceballos was obviously a touch better than those guys that I just mentioned, but he was sort of bunched up with the group. Like, why are we buying players from like mid-table La Liga teams? And he went on loan to Arsenal, came back, and sort of was part of like a couple of years of successful teams. But in all those years, he was never a starter. He was never like the guy. And on top of that, he was injured quite a bit. And when he did play, he didn't really, he didn't really make fans feel like he's that guy. And I've been saying for years now, he should leave. And the reason I said that is not because I don't like him as a player or as a person, but I think it's better for him and the club. Like, Real Madrid need to move on and improve. He needs to go to a club where he will get regular game time and will be more loved by the club. Because if your club isn't playing you week in, week out, you're not playing every game or close to every game, you gotta feel like, yeah, I'm not being appreciated that much, right? And I just felt like, yeah, for everyone's sake, he needs to leave. And for a moment, I think it was last season or the 24-25 season, when he did start a couple of games in a row and start to come in because we saw Cruz retire, Modric was getting on, the midfield wasn't really clicking. I said this in a couple of videos. This guy, Ceballos, is the closest thing we have to a midfielder like Cruz. And I never said that he was gonna be as good as Cruz or he was as good as Cruz, but his attributes, the way he can control the game, it isn't like a 10 out of 10, but it's the closest thing we have in the midfield that can do what Cruz did. Like, when you look at the midfield profile, Bellingham isn't that guy, Valverde isn't that guy, Camavinga isn't that guy, Goulet wasn't that guy, and I don't think he's that guy. Then you have Chouameni, he's a DM. Like, we didn't have that guy. And Ceballos did for a couple of games do it, although again it didn't really last long, and he got back injured again, and things just there was so much more negatives than positives for him, specifically like him at the club. So I felt like, and I do still feel like it's the best thing that can happen for him and the club to part ways. Of course, mutually terminated. I don't know when his contract was up. Was it 2027? So clearly he still had time left on his contract. He wasn't going to leave on a free, but he just Real Madrid saying, we just end the contract here. We'll pay you the you know termination fee, and we can move on. And yeah, I think that is the best possibility, best outcome for everybody. And all the best to him. He's a good person. He's a good player. I think Real Betis are looking for him, looking at him. Sorry. Um, and he was linked to Marseille. I think last summer. He was linked to Ajax a few weeks ago, but that I think has fallen off or has stagnated. So let's see what happens. But I think he would get into those teams and be a good player for them. Of course, I would personally prefer him to go out of the Liga, but if he did go back to Real Betis, that would be, I think, a really good renewal for him and the club. But yeah, let's see. But that'll be it for today. Hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. If you guys did, hit the button, subscribe to the channel on already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.